So we drive to the show and we shout, we don't know how it goes, and what to feel the rush. Will be in a second. There's going to be a little longer. So weird now when we're being weirdos dancing to the bumper music and people can see us instead of that being protected, safe space. Good morning. Y'all are pretty. It's nice to see your faces. Haven't always been this way. Wasn't born a renegade. I felt alone, still feel afraid. Stumble through it anyway. I wish someone would have told me that this life is yours to choose. No one's handing you the keys or a book with all the rules. The little that I know I'll tell you. When they dress you up in lies and you're left naked with the truth, you throw your head back, spin in the wind. Yourself away, pay full price for each mistake. When the candy coating hides a razor blade, you can cut yourself loose and use that rage. I wish someone would have told me that this darkness comes and goes. People will pretend, but baby girl, nobody knows. Even I can't teach you how to fly. Show you how to live like your life is on the line. You throw your head back, spin in the wind, let the walls crack. Let the light in, let them drag you to hell. They can't tell you to change who you are. That's all I know so far. When the storms come, run in the rain, push your sword down, dive right in. Skin full of scars. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know. We'll be with you till the world blows up. Yeah, up and down and through till the world blows up. Yeah, when it's right or it's all messed up till the world blows up.
let the light in, let them drag you through hell. They can't tell you to change who you are. That's all I know so far. When the stars out, ran in the rain, shed so down, dive right into the pain. Sing unfiltered and loud, you'll be proud of that skin full of scars.
That's all I know so far.
That's all I know. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know so far. That's all I know. That's all I know.
I will be with you till the world blows up.
Yeah. Good morning. My name, as my name tag says, is Colby. I'm one of the co-pastors here at Sojourn Grace. And who does that song? That's a Pink song. I'm sorry, I should have known that. I know. I don't know if I deserve to be a co-pastor at Sojourn and not have known that. And some of you might be here for the first time or first couple times, and some of you watching the live stream, hello, good morning, so glad you're with us, Virch Church. And you might think to yourself, a Pink song? I think I like that at church. Also kind of weird at church. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And I want you to know that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense if you're new around Sojourn. Part of why we do songs like that, I think, is because it doesn't take, in my mind, a rocket scientist to hear those words and feel in them this alignment with our mission here at Sojourn, which is to foster spiritual, social, and emotional wholeness. So when a song like that declares, like the words like, you can throw what you want at me, but it's not going to change who I know that I am, like that's part of what we do here at Sojourn. You are a loved child of God. Like just sitting where you're at today, congratulations, you've made it into the family of God by being a human. You are loved. Nothing can change that. So yeah, some of the songs we sing here aren't going to be your traditional like churchy type songs, and yet if we can step out of that expectation and into the place of, but what is this thing saying to the deepest parts of my soul, suddenly we realize, oh, there's Sojourn songs everywhere. There's Sojourn songs everywhere. If you didn't catch it on the way in, we do have name tags if you want. We also have this sticker system, which just to remind everybody, if someone's wearing a green sticker, that means, look, I'm fully vaccinated and I'm here for a hug. I'm here for that contact. A yellow sticker is, you know what, I would appreciate maybe just a little bit of distance, maybe an elbow bump or something like that, but I'm here in whatever state I would like to just have a little bit of space. And red is, why don't you just say hi for me from afar? And I just would love to scream at you through a mask as you strain to listen through your own mask. And that's kind of what we're doing here to try to do this. What does it look like to meet in person in the midst of a pandemic? It's a little bit weird, but with each week that we do it, it's maybe a little less weird. I don't know. Maybe it just stays weird, and that's fine too. Speaking of staying weird, we're going to continue on in music, and I'd like to invite you to stand where you're at, if you want and if you're able, and if you want to sing along, because what's this next song? Oh, sorry, I told them to mute you so that your mic wasn't coming through, and then I asked you a question.
You're setting me up to fail.
I am setting you up to fail.
Yeah.
Who does this song?
This is Jennifer Knapp's song.
This is Jennifer Knapp, so that's fun. Anyway, so welcome to Sojourn. So glad that you're here. We're going to sing another song as we continue our time together.
Can't squeeze blood from a turnip. I hold my breath blue. I've waited and waited and waited on you. Do what you want, and I'll do what I can. Just trying to keep faith in my fellow man. Hell harvested nothing by turning to you. Well, I try and I try and I try as I do. Bloodied my trying to fight for my plan, all the damage I've done to face, a desperate reaching, a trying to chase. But some call delusion, I've seen it firsthand. It's the whispers of hope in my fellow man. Turn to the river that cannot be washed in the sea. Keep damming it up, but the pressure's too much and it all breaks free. Like a stone to the river that cannot be washed in the sea. Keep damming it up, but the pressure's too much and it all breaks free. And it all breaks free. In the breath of the morning, where will you be? Waiting and waiting, please wait on me. I know it's not easy, I'm making my stand. I will try to keep faith in my fellow man. I don't know what to do. There it is. Thank you for having a seat.
Found you. I don't know if you found me. Yes. Listen, there I am.
There you are.
There I really am. I found a kindred spirit in the welcome area out there. Because I was like, hi, welcome. We're really awkward. Everything's awkward. The world is weird. And he was like, yeah, I didn't need more reason to be awkward in the world. And I was like, friend.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so awkward already. And then
So
we just
awkward.
like,
I left the capo on the guitar, so that
Cool.
was 3 steps higher that last song than it should have been.
Cool.
Which is why I was screaming at you. Ben had to adjust in the middle. Like, it's just a whole awkward
So
mess.
what we're saying is, hi, we're Sojourn Grace Collective, and we're awkward AF. It all belongs.
belongs.
There's this saying we have here. It all belongs. So this is okay, we're just gonna keep being so awkward. There's a
I've
friggin'
been very
statue with like
curious about why this is
body
here.
parts on the, you'll find out later.
Oh, okay. Not yet.
For now, that's gonna go down there.
Suspense.
Yeah, but this is the most awkward part of our whole service, where we do collective conversation and we try to talk to the virtual church people and you. You here need to shout out, and virtual people will get to your comments in a 5-second delay.
Yeah.
So we're just awkward. Okay, ready?
It's
This is where
also
we-
the best part, though, because we get to interact.
Hey, really quick before I ask one of these random questions out of here, how was drag last Sunday?
It was so fun.
Matthew had her first drag show at
Yes.
Gossip Grill, which, oh my gosh, every time I say Gossip Grill, I accidentally say Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
So last week when I told the whole church that you were having your drag show, I said, at Gossip Girl.
On the
then
WB.
That was not correct anyway.
No.
Oh no, we did that one last week. How was it back in there? Oh, did we do this one our first Sunday back?
I
think we did this one our
Did
first
we?
Sunday back. I can't
Go
tell
to
if
the
they're
bottom.
just, yeah,
Go to the bottom.
We need a good mix-up here. If a movie was being made about your life, who would act the part of you and why? We did it in small group. Maybe that's why I keep thinking that we've done the ones before, because they're just for my small group, because we do all these in small group. Okay.
Who plays you in a movie and why?
And why? Gina Davis.
Oh, I'm
Because I feel like that just works. That's why.
Yeah.
How about y'all? Anybody? Okay, Okay, if you couldn't hear that, Wesley said, I think I would just act the part of me because I'm supposed to be playing me, so then I'm going to act the part of me. That makes sense.
I'm very much here for that answer.
Anyone else know who would play you in a movie about your life? Yes, Rob. Live streamers, Rob just said the golden retriever from Air Bud. I'm not even going to ask why because I feel like it's in the answer. Some people are golden retrievers.
Some people
right?
are, yeah.
Yes. Always. It's always Enneagram
sevens.
7s that are golden retrievers. So true.
I just realized I don't have my phone, so I don't.
Who would play you?
I can't
Oh,
see.
here.
Yeah.
T.
No, I'm still thinking because you stole Gina Davis, so I can't say that.
James said, I would hope for Jake Gyllenhaal. That's great.
This
Love
is,
it.
yes.
Mercy said Kathy Bates, chubby, funny, and a little creepy.
Mercy.
I love you, Mercy.
I love that for you. Seriously.
I love you, Mercy.
And Kathy
That's
Bates.
Amazing. That's amazing. Who would play you?
Mark Ruffalo. How about that?
Love Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
I know
I'd love
you,
to see
so I
Mark
don't.
Ruffalo in drag, actually. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be beautiful. Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo is amazing. I don't need to know your why because I know you and I feel like I can fill in those dots, but tell the people what your why is for that.
I just think because he's a person who gets it, I feel like, it's a person standing in the
Who
gap for a
would.
lot of people. So.
Yeah, who would dress up in drag just because
And
you
who
asked
would.
him to?
Yeah.
That's
I
amazing.
would see it as a creative opportunity.
Holly says, I've always said Scarlett Johansson, probably overly confident, but I'll back myself.
It's the okay, what Marvel cast member now? That's where we're at. Which Marvel actor would play her?
I like it.
Mandy Moore. Like it.
Because it's perfect.
She
Yes,
sings.
that's the why.
Oh, perfect.
And it's unusual to find a woman with the same height as you. Yeah. Not in Hollywood. What about you? You don't know? He could pull me off. And everywhere we go, people say, you look like Bradley Cooper. Did you know that?
He's got the talent. He can handle you.
All right, one more awkward question. How does your soul, okay, this one's easy. Just start shouting it out, people. You don't have to struggle with this. How does your soul feel refreshed? What makes you feel uplifted? Baseball. We got a baseball in the house.
Streams.
I didn't hear that.
Like rivers?
Oh,
Streams.
streams.
Live streaming?
Rivers.
So
Ocean.
water. We've got some water motifs happening.
I like it. Rafting.
Sleep.
We got a rafting. Crafting.
Crafting. Sleep.
Yoga. We got yoga.
Yoga. Long walks by the beach.
Tacos. That refreshes my soul too. Another one for tacos. There was one over here I didn't hear. Dog parks. I love that. What'd you say, Vicky? Soccer.
Football.
Football. Nice.
Football. Learning and building things.
Oh, love that.
Cooking and then eating. Yes. Music. Susan says Sojo.
Yay.
Love it.
Plants make my soul feel refreshed. What makes your soul feel refreshed?
Like alone time. For
Really?
sure. Yeah.
What are you, an introvert or something?
Well, surprise.
I love it.
Yes.
All right, friends, it's been good to connect and get to know each other better. Love you all.
Love
you should
you.
awkwardly make your way back over to your music stuff. I'll take your microphone.
I thought Ben's comment there was important that Brene Brown adds awkward to brave and kind. So it's awkward, brave and kind, which I feel like that's phase 2 for Sojo. Awkward, brave and kind.
Yeah.
Colby says you can stand if you'd like to stand. I think that's what this means. You never have to, but you always may, because we like to see your faces and you're standing and you're dancing.
Oh, come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken-hearted, let rescue begin. Come find your mercy, beloved, come kneel. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Death has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Let's sing that again. Come out of sadness. Come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken-hearted, let rescue begin. Come find your mercy, beloved, come kneel. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Excellent. Lay down your burdens. Lay down your burdens. Lay down your shame. Oh, who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, and come as you are. There's hope for the hopeless and all those who strayed. Come sit at the table and come taste the grace. There's a rest for the weary, a rest that endures. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't cure. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. And all who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home, 'cause you're not too far. So lay down your hurts, lay down your heart, and come as you are. Fall in love's arms, come as you are. There's joy for the morning, beloved, be still. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. Oh, who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, and come as you are. Come as you are, as you are. Come as you are, come as you are, come as you are.
If you want to, just stay where you're at and close your eyes if it helps you. Just to eliminate distraction, just for a minute. This won't take long. And with me, as best as you can, knowing that you have a mask on and that we're all sort of conscious of the air that we breathe in ways that our bodies haven't maybe been used to. As best as you can, if you want, take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale. And maybe put a hand on where your heart is, where you can feel your heartbeat, or maybe on your abdomen where you feel your breath, just somewhere on your body where you can feel evidence of your life. Feel your heart beating, so maybe it's a finger on the wrist for your pulse. Just really quick, just if you want, place your hand somewhere where you can feel your own self feeling your own self being alive in this moment. For me, that's a hand on my diaphragm. It's from my vocal training in college. That's where I learned how to breathe so I can sing. And so now that's just where I always feel my breath most. And as you feel yourself in this moment alive, I want to call back to one of the lyrics of that song that we just sang, where the lyric is this: "O wanderer, come home, you're not too far." I think many of us might have grown up in a church context where maybe we'd show up on a Sunday morning and we'd feel like, okay, I gotta come to church, I gotta return back into some sort of good spot with God because this week I wandered too far. And we live this narrative, this story where we wander away from God and then we have to return back to God. But I submit to you that maybe what you're feeling right now, whether it's your breath or your pulse, your heartbeat, that right there is all you need to know, that you are right where you need to be. That you have not wandered too far. There is no situation in which you are somehow apart from God. For God, as the Apostle Paul said, is the one in whom we live and move and have our being. Right now, you have being. This is what your breath is telling you. This is what your heartbeat is telling you. You have being right now. Ergo, you are in God now. So when we sing, "Wanderer, come home," you're not too far. It's not to say you have wandered away from God. It is to say, let us not forget that we are never too far. The wandering is really only a story that we tell. And we can drop that story as soon as we pick it up. One more time, let's just sing the words to that chorus. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame, all the things that in this moment might prevent you from knowing that right here in this moment you are in, with, held by God.
So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. And all who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart. Come as you are. Come as you are. Oh, come as you are.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Thank you. Oh, I'll need it. Not yet. I asked my wife if she would. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Would you run backstage and see if you can find me a ball? She's like, what? So it'll make sense in a bit, or it won't, and that'll be fine too. Okay, it's really good to see you all, even though most of you, I just see this. We were talking last week after Kate did her incredible spiritual nugget last week, which if you missed it, you can rewatch the stream on YouTube. The podcast isn't quite out yet, but we were talking about how different it was for the last year and a half to adjust to just looking into a lens and having no feedback. And then the last couple weeks, getting to have a little bit of feedback, but it's still like just this feedback. So you still don't really know if people are with you or not. You still don't really know, are you glaring at me, or are those your happy eyes? Are you just squinting because you don't have your glasses on? Like, what is the face that you're making? And I want you to know I'm fine with whatever face you're making, by the way. It won't faze me until I wake up tonight, like at 3 a.m. in the morning, being like, nobody was with me. But in this moment, I'll pretend you're all with me. And I'll start by saying this. If this morning you're feeling tired, if this morning you're feeling a bit weary, if this morning you're like, oh man, barely made it through another week, barely made it through another pandemic week, which we're all still figuring out what that looks like. If you're tired from figuring out back to school-ish, back to work-ish, if you're feeling like I've just been grinding day in and day out and I'm not entirely sure it's doing much, if you're just tired, in whatever way, if you're feeling heavy this morning, my hope is that my words will be meaningful in some way to you. And if not, if you're here and you're full of energy, and as I'm talking, you're like, maybe this isn't for me, just stick it in your back pocket because you might be tired in a week or two. And you might need this then. So what I'm going to do in the next few minutes here is I'm going to start by quickly contrasting Jesus with some of the teaching of his contemporaries. Then I'm going to say a word about yokes. Then I'm going to talk about oppressive systems and demanding stories. Then a quick bit about Atlas from Greek mythology, which is obviously why you came this morning. And finally, I'm going to give an invitation, as I said, to anyone who is feeling weary, torn, tired. So I begin here. One of the reasons why I think that Jesus drew a following in his relatively short time of public ministry was because he offered an alternative view of how to, you might say, live in the flow of God's love, an alternative view. And he talked about it as a kingdom. The gospel writers of Mark and Luke quoted Jesus as calling it kingdom of God. The gospel writer of Matthew quoted Jesus as saying kingdom of heaven. But either way, Jesus talked of it as a kingdom, but not really so much as like a geographical location that would be ruled by an individual sort of kingdom, but more like a vision for what might it look like if we lived in such a way where all of our deepest values were in alignment with the values of the creator of the world. Where the things that are most true, most right, most good, most beautiful, aka God, were also the things in our life that were our aim, that which we were searching for, and our acceptance of what is right here. So being in that state, I believe, is what Jesus was talking about with the kingdom of God. And this was in contrast to the contemporary teaching of his day. There were, you know how today we have what's called social media influencers? Okay. And you know how, and if there's any in this room, I love you, you belong here, but you know how a lot of them maybe have influence for no other reason than because they have influence? It's like this weird sort of, they're not official, they don't have any official capacity for influence, but they have influence. This is what the Pharisees were. The Pharisees were really first century Jewish social media influencers. They weren't official positions, but they had developed a sort of influence over their local synagogues and communities. And they taught an idea about how to be in the flow of God's love. And like I said, it was different from Jesus. Now, it's easy for us to default into Jesus good, Pharisees bad. And a lot of Christian preaching, I've even done those messages in my past, have fallen into that lazy binary thinking. But this really isn't representative of the Pharisees. It's really not a fair picture of it. Many of the Pharisees, you can imagine, were well-intentioned individuals who really were trying their best to lead their people to find how to live in the flow of God's love. And yet, their sense about how to find liberation, and if you remember anything from your Bible Studies 101 class, in this time, the Jewish people were in the Roman Empire as their sort of captors. So they were under the oppression of Rome. And the Jewish people were waiting for a chance to have their freedom, to be liberated. And for the Pharisees, their thinking was, okay, when this has happened to us in the past, meaning the Jewish people's history, when this has happened to us in the past, the prophets called us back to repentance, to get back to following the letter of the law of Moses. So in the Pharisees' mind, they're like, that is the path. We got to go back to the law of Moses, and we got to do it even better than we've ever done before. And so in their thinking, the path for liberation ran through doubling down on the Jewish law. And you and I might look back at through 2,000 years of history and be like, it's kind of silly. Like, we know that's not how you do it. But if you put yourself in a typical first century Jewish set of, I almost said shoes, like sandals, then that made all the sense in the world. Yes, return to the law, double down on the law. And so the Pharisees had these ideas of like, if this is the central law, such as keep the Sabbath holy, let's develop all these other sort of micro laws to build a hedge of protection around the main law just to make sure we don't even come close to violating the law. And that's where we had all these ideas like you can't walk X number of steps on Sabbath, or you can't pick up X amount of weight on Sabbath. It was all this way to like really make sure that you didn't come close to violating the law. The thinking was pretty straightforward. We're in exile because we failed to keep God's commands. Therefore, we just need to repent and return to following the Torah with increased fervor and commitment. And then along comes Jesus saying things like, you've heard it said, which is to say, some of the local social media influencers have said this is what it looks like to live in the flow of God's love. But I say to you. So there was this divergence between Jesus and his contemporaries, these differing ideas, these views of what it means to live in the flow of God's love. Jesus cast a radically different vision for how to be the people of God. And many people were at the very least intrigued. Like, they showed up to listen. This is interesting. We haven't heard this before. And then there were some that quite literally dropped everything to follow in this way. Now, during the agricultural world of the New Testament, and this is still true today in many parts of the world, farm animals were controlled by these large wooden, harnesses that would go on their necks or on their horns, and it would attach two animals together, and then the person could use this device to to harvest the field. And I'm pretty sure this is how they did it. I've done my harvesting with ox before, and that's how it works. And these things are called yokes, Y-O-K-E-S, yokes, the big harness that you attach the large animals together so that you can control them and guide them through the fields. Also, fun fact, in the ancient world, this term yoke was used metaphorically to imply and suggest a sort of subservience or toiling or effort or being underneath something. In fact, there was even a practice known as sending under the yoke. And sending under the yoke is this. If you conquered a neighboring land or territory or something, they would build a yoke of spears and then force the losers to walk through the yoke of spears to basically say, we have won, you are the losers, and we'd like you to know that. Walk through our yoke of spears. So this idea of yoke in the first century had this heaviness to it. Literally, because they were large pieces of wood that tied giant animals together, and metaphorically, because to be under the yoke of someone or something was to have lost your freedom, essentially. You don't get to guide your own steps anymore. The owner of the yoke controls you. Jesus, I think, believed that the approach put forth by the Pharisees, the sort of doubling down on the rigid fulfillment of the law, was a type of yoke on the backs of the people. A heavy burden put on the people. Rather than lead them to freedom like the Pharisees thought it would do, Jesus said, I think this actually leads people to this oppressive inner world, like guilt and shame, and this oppressive external society filled with judgment, figuring out who's in, who's out, clean, unclean, right, wrong, righteous, sinner. This was the oppressive yoke of the Pharisees according to Jesus. But that was back then, right? This is 2,000 years ago, give or take. We live in America now in the year 2021, and really, what do we have in common with the people of the New Testament? In fact, I often think the only reason that Jesus actually found a foothold, think about this for a minute. I think the only reason Jesus found any foothold with his fellow Jews in and around Galilee is because that was a unique time in history, follow me now, a unique time in history when your average, normal, typical, everyday person was struggling under the weight of economic pressures. Really unique to that time. Your average everyday person felt oppressed by unjust systems. Really unique to that time. Your average person was stuck in these endless cycles of frustration from these cultural narratives designed to hold them back from flourishing and shove them into these predetermined roles. Really unique back then. And then not to mention they had to deal with layers of shame and guilt placed upon them by religious institutions that were designed to liberate them, but actually just added more guilt and oppression. Again, nothing like our world today. All of that was subtitled in sarcasm font in the event that wasn't clear in the room. Not much has changed. I don't know that a whole lot has changed in the last 2,000 years. For Jesus, his fellow people were neither free from the boot of Rome nor free from the yoke of the Pharisees. And I think not too much has changed in 2,000 years. Let's start with the boot of Rome really quick. Boot of Rome. Now, maybe you're here this morning, and sure, perhaps it's not the boot of the Roman Empire specifically that's pinning you to the ground, stripping you of dignity and demanding tribute. But maybe you still feel like there's systems, there's cultural narratives that trap you in a kind of exile. Let me just name a few, see if you recognize any of these. And these are quite literally just 3 or 4 out of, I could have done 50 of these. Maybe it's commercialism, with the constant pressure to maximize profit while decreasing quality. So you just crank out more at the expense of time and intentionality and passion and quality, just more. Or maybe it's hedonism, which is a theory that sees that the ultimate goal of life is just pleasure and satisfying your every desire. That's the highest goal. And the story of hedonism is you're only doing life right when you're happy and your desires are met. Ergo, don't do that thing if that is hard work, or don't do that if that doesn't lead to immediate gratification, for the point of life is pleasure. Or maybe it's materialism, with the seductive promise that happiness is just one Amazon order away. Maybe it's sexism, which poisons our world to view women as inferior to men. Maybe it's homophobia, which tells the story that being gay is a deviation from, quote, normal. It's an unnatural aberration. Or maybe it's ableism, which refuses to acknowledge or to deal with how society is designed to enable certain types of people while setting others at grave disadvantage. Yeah, we live in America, great, land of the free, home of the brave and all. Technically, there's no Rome per se telling us where to go and how to live and what we can and can't do and who we can and can't be, sure. But there's certainly systems and stories embedded in our collective consciousness that I think pin us down all the same. Are you here this morning and you're feeling tired? Are you here this morning feeling a bit weary, a bit exhausted? And then the yoke of the Pharisees. Maybe you're here this morning, and sure, it's not the hundreds of these micro laws designed by the Pharisees to control your every move and to mitigate your standing with the divine, but you still feel, sometimes you still feel like there's a gap between who God wants you to be and who you are right now. Do you sometimes feel there's a gap between those two? Who you are right now with this projected ideal of who God really wants me to be? Maybe it's the voice of pastors from years gone by or youth pastors that told you, again, I would argue, many well-intentioned, but told you things like, if you want to be close to God, you have to do your daily devotions. You have to do your quiet time every morning. That's how you stay close to God. And if you fail to do that, then you'll be distant from God. Or maybe it's the residual effects of some theological ideas that you've abandoned the ideas long ago, but even though you don't think them anymore, they're still in your body. It takes longer to excavate some of these ideas from our neurological system than just to be like, okay, I don't cognitively acquiesce to that idea anymore. They still live in here. So we still sometimes feel ourselves like, ugh, I just did something wrong. I am something wrong. Ugh. Even though up here you're like, no, no. In here, ugh. Or maybe you've said goodbye to religious ideas and religious systems of the past, and maybe you picked up along the way these alternative spiritualities or these alternative systems of positive thinking, and you're surprised that they too have a yoke that can hang around your neck as you end up feeling bad because now it's not that I didn't do my quiet time this morning, it's because I didn't do the exercise that week, or I didn't eat the right foods, or I had a week where I didn't think positively. And so now we have this yoke of these new sorts of spiritual approaches. Are you carrying heavy loads this morning? Are you feeling exhausted from the boots of Rome or the yokes of the Pharisee? In 2001, so that's 20 years ago, maybe this month, I don't remember what month it was, but 20 years ago, summer of 2001, I went to Greece with some of my college professors and classmates to do a 2-week tour of it was called the Footsteps of Paul. I went to a Bible college, so real geeky stuff. Footsteps of Paul tour. Went to Athens and Corinth and Philippi and Ephesus. It was a fantastic time. I only have 2 remaining artifacts from my trip there. And this is one of them. Anybody know what this is? Atlas, a little statue of Atlas. And if you don't know about Atlas, I'm going to invite my 17-year-old son to come up and share. I'm kidding. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But he knows all the Greek mythology. But Atlas was one of the titans. You panicked right there. That was fun. I know what those eyes were. Through the mask even. Atlas was one of the titans who participated in the rebellion against the gods on Olympia. And they lost. And so Atlas was punished by Zeus, and his punishment was to go to the western edge of the world and hold up the sky. And that's what Atlas had to do. That was Atlas's punishment. Now, I love this little guy. He sits on my desk in my office, and he just sits there, naked, holding this giant globe. And I often think to myself, why did I buy this? Why Atlas? 20 years ago, I didn't necessarily have any idea of who Atlas was other than the guy who held the world on his shoulders. But in a shop full of Apollo, Zeus, Athena, I picked Atlas, a naked dude holding a globe. And I've never really, I don't think, understood why I picked Atlas. If I had any conscious reason at the time, it has certainly long since left my mind. Why? What drew me to this? Fun fact, I did read this week that in psychology, there's what's known as the Atlas personality. I don't know if you've heard of this, Atlas personality, true story. The Atlas personality describes someone who took on adult responsibilities prematurely as a child. For example, providing psychological support to parents or because of a chaotic family situation. Like I said, no idea why I was drawn to Atlas. Thank you. Sorry, a bit of insider there. You have to have been around Sojourn to hear some of my stories about how I grew up to know that there's some irony there, that maybe my subconscious was drawing me towards Atlas. But also this week, I learned something else about Atlas. Some of you in this room might already know what I'm about to say. Some of you might discover what I discovered just a couple days ago. Let me remind you, he's been sitting on my desk for 20 years. I learned about Atlas. He's not holding the earth. He's not holding a globe. This entire time, I've weight of the world on your shoulders. That's Atlas. This is a globe. You look at the object here, and it's got all these lines, and I realize, oh, this is not the earth. Atlas doesn't hold the earth. This is not what Atlas is holding. As I said a minute ago, the punishment given to Atlas by Zeus was to go to the western edge of the world and hold up the sky. This is a spherical representation of the heavens. So on here are carved the 60 different constellations. This isn't the earth, this is the sky. And that got me thinking this. I need a volunteer. Who's willing to come up here and doesn't mind being somewhat close to me? Back there? I see that hand. Oh, sorry, someone beat you to it. Is that Jazz? Hi, Jazz. Come on up, Jazz. Everybody say thank you, Jazz, so that I didn't have to do it. All right. If this was a globe, if this was a planet, obviously now you're gigantic. But you could, if I said, hold a planet, you could do it. Yeah. Look at you. You're holding a planet. She's holding a planet. Yeah, that's worth that. Maybe even try the Atlas pose. She's holding a planet. Well done. Now, if I were to say, Jazz, drop the planet, what would happen? It dropped. Yeah. There was a thing that you held, and then you stopped holding it, and it fell down. Now, Jazz, if I were to say to you, just right where you are, please hold up the sky, what would you do? Go ahead. I think that's what all of us would do. You were hesitant, but that's what all of us would do. We'd be like, okay. Now, Jazz, let go of the sky. Okay, thank you, Jazz. Everybody say thank you, Jazz. Holding the sky is an illusion. There's nothing that you're holding. This is the same as this. If you're actually holding a globe, if you're actually holding an object, there's something to hold. It can be heavy. Thankfully, Jazz was really strong. But this could theoretically be really heavy. And dropping it has actual consequence. The sky? Hold the sky, don't hold the sky. Some of the earliest accounts of Jesus have Jesus saying the following words. Come to me, anyone who's struggling. Come to me, anyone who's exhausted in your efforts. You've been toiling, you've been laboring. Come to me. Come to me, all you who labor and toil. Come to me, all you who are heavy laden. If you know this verse, you know those are two things. Come to me, all you who are weary, which is to say tired, exhausted, and heavy laden, which is a passive verb, which is to say weights have been put upon you. Come to me, all you who toil, who labor, who work, who are exhausted, and come to me, all you who are laden with heavy loads, who are put upon weights by society, by culture, by stories, by religion. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden. Come to me, those who are crushed under the weight of other people's expectations and demands, given these heavy yokes. Come to me, and I will give you what? Rest. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Now, he said these words to people who were very familiar with the land, very familiar with agriculture, very familiar with farming, who knew that you had to give the land occasional rest. If you just worked the land nonstop, eventually the soil is going to go bad. Eventually it's not going to produce the crops. You had to give it rest. This was the rest Jesus spoke of. Come to me, all you who toil, all you who are weighed down, and I will give you rest. And then he said, take my yoke. Take my yoke. Wear this instead and learn my ways. Learn my ways. What does that mean? Take my yoke. I know you've been given the yoke of the Pharisees. I know that you've been harnessed by ideas such as God is distant from you and separate from you, and you have to behave in all the right ways and believe all the right things. That yoke is freaking heavy. That's heavy. I know some of you in this room, and I know I've seen you buckle under the weight of that. Believe the right things. Behave the right way. Jesus says, but take my yoke. Learn a different way. A way of compassion and grace, mercy, kindness, patience. Oof. And then Jesus said, I am gentle and I'm humble. Which is a contrast to the boot of Rome and the yoke of the Pharisees. The world is harsh. The world can be cruel. The world can be full of oppressive systems and ideas and stories that's heavy, demanding. But the way of Jesus is gentle, slow, kind, humble. Take my yoke. Jesus said, my yoke is easy to bear. It's light. There's a lightness here. I was reading that this week, and I feel like it was a little bit like that moment in Aladdin. Stay with me. A little bit like that moment in Aladdin where Aladdin and Jasmine have just met, and they're at the edge of the roof, ready, being chased by the guards who have come, what? To close in upon Jasmine and return her back to the expected story that she was supposed to live by. This is the narrative given to you. And Aladdin sees a potential alternative way, and what does he say to Jasmine? Do you trust me? I feel a little bit like Jesus, when he gives these teachings, come to me, all you who are weary, all you who are heavy laden. Take my yoke upon you. It's easy. I'm gentle. I'm humble. It's a little bit like, do you trust me? Do you trust that there is another way? Do you trust that it doesn't have to be this heavy? If you trust me, you might discover that this kingdom that I speak of, this reality in which we live and move in God, is here right now. It is in you. Now that Jesus isn't here anymore. He hasn't been around for almost 2,000 years. But his teaching, perhaps, and his spirit, perhaps you might say, remains. Has transcended 2,000 years of culture, time, space. Pretty impressive. So maybe this divine invitation to come, all who are tired, all who are worn out from the weights of the world being thrown around your neck, come and find rest. Maybe that invitation still stands. I submit to you, friends, that for some of us, the stories that we've been living, some of the expectations that the world places upon us, expectations of our families, expectations even that we put on ourselves, some of the ideas about who God is and who we are and what we have to do to be okay within this world, these can be heavy, heavy yokes that pin us down. But I submit to you that maybe, just maybe, that's because we think they're real. Because we think they're real. We think we've been given the earth to carry. This is a story expected of you to live. Live it out. This is an idea about who you are. It's already been told. Work harder. Do better. Carry this heavy frickin' weight. But I submit that maybe Atlas this morning can remind us that we're not actually holding anything. It's not real. Really, we're just holding the sky. All these yokes, all these boots of Rome are just like holding the sky. And guess what? The sky doesn't need us to hold it. We can just, what, Jazz? Just let go. We can just let it go. We can actually drop it. And so, friends, may we today hear the voice of the one. May we today hear the voice of the one who sees us in our hunched over, bone-tired states. May we hear the voice of the one who understands and feels the weights that we carry, the weights that are put upon us. Maybe listen to the one who can appreciate the way that we often fight to keep the tears just behind the eyes, to keep the lump in the throat just right here, because deep inside we're afraid that if we just let the dam loose, the waves of what we're really feeling will be so much that we'll drown. May we trust that there is one who knows what it's like to be trapped in a story where the weight of not just your own story, but the story of your friends and your family and your community just feels like everything's on your shoulders. And may we hear that and accept this invitation to come, to lay down the burdens, lay down the shame, lay down the problems we can't fix. Can't fix it. I cannot fix this problem. Lay down the suffering that we cannot end. I cannot actually end this suffering. Lay down the expectations we cannot meet. I can't meet this expectation. It's unreal. I don't want it. Get it off me. Lay down the stories that are no longer serving us. And may we, friends, when we remember, may we set aside the boot of Rome. May we lay down the yoke of the Pharisees, and in their place receive the yoke of love. For it's easy to bear. It offers lightness instead of heaviness. And in so doing, may we find rest for our weary souls. Can I pray for us? God, I'm grateful this week for this invitation to come and to lay down these burdens, these heavinesses, and realize I'm just Atlas holding up the sky. I can actually just let go. This isn't real. And God, of course, I'm conscious of how some things in life absolutely are real, 100%. Yes, some things we are holding and it is real, and if we let go of it, like, problems will come. But God, if anyone in this room is like me, I conflate everything in that first category. I think all the problems are mine to fix, all the suffering is mine to end, all the expectations are mine to fulfill. So this week, even if it's one expectation that's been put upon us that we can let go, even if it's one cultural story that we can remember is not real, even if it's one burden or shame or inner voice or old religious idea stuck in our system that we can be like, actually, this is like the sky. I can stop holding this up. And I pray that we may do that and that we may find rest. We're going to transition here into communion, and If you've been with us the last couple weeks, you know we've done it 2 different ways since we've been meeting back in person. Back in our old Sojourn Grace days, for the first 6 years that we were at church, we would have a line that would come forward, and myself and Kate or someone else would hand you a piece of bread with a blessing, like you are a loved child of God, and then you would dip it into a cup of juice, and you know, it's just not time yet for us to reinstitute some of those rituals. And so 2 weeks ago, we tried bring your own communion, and we'll provide elements. So that was nice, but also not sustainable. And then last week, we're like, what if we did this? And we're going to do it again today. Kate and I are going to be in the courtyard, just right behind, outside the doors. And as the band begins the song, we invite you to just kind of make a line and file out the door. And Kate and I will just give you a verbal blessing from a safe distance away. Because we remembered, oh yeah, there were times where people wanted to come forward for communion, but couldn't or didn't want to eat, and so they would put their hands over their chest like this, signifying, I'm just here for a blessing, and we'd give them a blessing. And Kate and I continued to remember that the point of communion is to not do the damn thing perfectly. There is no perfect. It's not the point of communion. Now we're right back into the Pharisees building a hedge around figuring out how to do it correct. So today, and for the foreseeable future, we'll continue this way of doing it. Line up, form a line. Kate and I will give you a blessing, and then peel off to the left, which puts you back through the lobby, and then come right back in here and continue singing with the band as we close out our gathering together. Did I forget anything, babe? Are we good? I'll assume we're good then. All right. If you would like to stand, you're welcome to stand here and be with the band. You're welcome to come out and receive a blessing from me and Pastor Kate.
You've been wounded, all you who've lost hope. Come, you are longing for what you do not know. Come, you hungry for justice, aching for heaven on earth. Come, you who've been tossed aside, don't remember what you were. Come as you were. Come, you weary, come and lay your burden down. Come as you are, bring your hopes, bring your doubts and your scars. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come, you who've been cast out, all you who've been chained. Come, you who are longing for that mystery you can name. Come, you crying for mercy, hoping for peace on earth. Come, you carrying questions, you who've been so hurt. Come as you are, come you weary, come and lay your burdens down. Come as you are, bring your hopes, bring your doubts and your scars. Come as you are. Come as you are. All you misfits and prophets, all you sinners and saints, all you broken and needy, weak and weary and faint, all who seek to simply open their eyes, all who need to find a safe place to cry. So come as you are, come you weary, come and lay your burdens down. Come as you are, bring your hopes, Bring your doubts and your scars. Come as you are, come you weary. Come and lay your burdens down. Come as you are, bring your hopes. Bring your doubts and your scars. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are. Oh, come as you
Let's go back to the top and sing that again. I love the fact the line's taking longer today. I love the fact that many of you turned up. I know it's pretty weird to come back and be kind of in person and all masked. And so maybe you don't want to sing this. Maybe you just kind of want to let us wash over you this morning, receive this blessing. So come, you've been wounded, all you who've lost hope. Come, you who are longing for what you do not know. Come, you hungry for justice, aching for heaven on earth. Come, you've been tossed aside, don't remember what you're worth. Come as you are, come you weary. Come and lay your burdens down. Come as you are, bring your hopes, bring your doubts and your scars. Come as you are, come you weary. Come and lay your burdens down. Come as you are, bring your hopes, bring your doubts and your scars. Come as you are. Come as you are.
Come as you are indeed. If you're standing, you can stay standing. If you're sitting, you can stay sitting, because this will just take 47 seconds. We've got a couple house notes. The first one is this, is in the back there and or at the table when you came in, there are these info cards. And on the info cards, if you're newish, first-ish time here, if you want to put your name and email address on that and rip off that bottom portion and leave it with us, we'll introduce ourselves non-threateningly, hopefully over a series of emails. Secondly, we have the Joy Box, which is our way of inviting you to partner with us at Sojourn by supporting us through financial donations. And do we have a physical box yet? Not yet. Close. One day, again, we will have a physical box for like cash and check. Until then, if you want to pay by cash or check, I guess you can give it to the chair of our elder board. You're trustworthy. Or just go online to sojourngrace.com/donate or Venmo. And thank you for those of you who believe in the mission and support it in that way. And then finally, to go with this theme of rest, if you didn't catch the announcement last week, we're going to, for the time being, who knows how long this will last, we're going to take the last Sunday of the month off from just all churching. Okay, so there will be no service. We're calling them Sabbath Sundays. There'll be no churching on August 29th. Except for there will be because resting is church. Thanks, babe. All right, now I'm going to invite everybody to stand because we have one last song that I'm really excited to sing together, and then we'll do our benediction. Yeah? Sound good? Excellent.
I now know what this means forever.
Oh, would you believe me now if I told you I got caught up in a wave? I almost gave it away. Would you hear me out if I told you I was terrified for days? Thought I was gonna break. Said, whoa, I couldn't stop it. Tried to slow it all down. Crying in the bathroom, tried to figure it out. With everyone around me saying, you must be so happy now. Oh, if you keep reaching out, then I'll keep coming back.
I always had the best intentions, babe. I always wanted to stay. Oh, can you feel me now? That I'm vulnerable in oh so many ways, knowing I'll never change. And I said, oh, I couldn't stop it, tried to figure it out, but everything kept moving and the noise got too loud, with everyone around me saying, you should be so happy now. Oh, if you keep reaching out, then I'll keep coming back. If you're going forward, then I'm okay with it. If you leave the light on, I'll leave the light on. Yeah, light on, light on. I am finding out there's just no other way. Then I'm standing to the end of the day. If you leave the light on, I'll leave the light on. Light on, light on, light on. Leave the light on. Oh, would you leave the light on? Oh, if you keep reaching out, then I'll keep coming back. If you're gone for good, then I'm okay with it. 'Cause if you leave the light on, I'll leave the light on. Light on, light on, light on. Now you're finding out there's just no other way. And I'm still dancing at the end of the day. If you leave the light on, I'll leave the light on. Light on, light on, light on. If you leave the light on, I'll leave the light on. Light on, light on, light on. Yeah. If you leave the light on, I'll leave the light on.
Nope. Before our benediction, I forgot to put my microphone up, but you can hear me. Before our benediction, we're all going to say happy birthday to Karen because it's her birthday today. Live streamers, comment your happy birthdays. Go to her page and tell her how much she means to you. Thank you for being who you are in the world and for leading us always and being our wordsmith and singing on your birthday.
Whoa, whoa.
It's nowhere I'd rather be.
Okay, now you can say whatever you're going to say.
I was going to say, I love ending with that song because one of the reasons why we are a church is because human beings are a forgetful species. And even though today you were filled up with this truth that you are a loved child of God, if you're anything like me, you're going to forget it by the afternoon or by tomorrow or by Tuesday. And so we're here every 7 days. We're leaving the lights on if you need another reminder. Other than Sabbath Sundays, I get it. The irony was not lost on me. All right, this is our benediction. It'll be on the screen behind us, and this is what we've said at the end of every one of our gatherings, in person for 6 years, virtually for 1.5 years, and now back combination. We used to hold hands.
Energetically do the chicken or something?
Just sort of, you can connect with your loved one or partner if you came with them, or just sort of reach out energetically and connect to the person next to you, and then we just need a leader, and we will follow you. Because you're a child of God, because so is everyone else. Love you. Have a good Sunday.